right away after the 2025 NFL Draft. Let's do it. All right, Rob, it's the time we've been waiting for months. Shoot, if 2024 didn't go so well for you, you've been waiting for this day for a very long time to finally get all of these rookies and mostly, right, the depth charts and who's going to be on what team pretty much figured out. Just a couple of free agents potentially notable left, but nothing crazy. I guess, Breece Hall is still hoping to be traded. Who knows? But generally speaking, we know now who's playing where, what we have to work with. And it was a pretty awesome draft. Of course, you and I did a marathon stream on Friday night. That was a ton of fun where we got the majority of our most exciting landing spots. And so I want to kick it to you first. What, just like over the course of this weekend, like jumped out to you that you were like, this is the one thing that I'm, for sure thinking about, could be like overall macro, a player, whatever, that was like, oh man, this is the thing, right? Sunday, we got to talk about this one.
Well, first of all, if you thought the takes in 2024 after the draft were bad, let me introduce you to 2025, because people are throwing out some of the worst takes I've ever seen in football, and we'll probably continue with that tradition here today as well. My one takeaway, well, there's a bazillion takeaways, but I think the easiest takeaway, one thing I like to try to do for best ball every year is to try to limit my quarterback player pool of what I want to do at that position, particularly because I think it's the easiest one to do it at by far. And I think teams are allowing us to do that at an even easier pace this year. The dogs agree. And
yes. Dog's very upset about the quarterback player pool in 2025. Less options, Griffey says.
Yeah, there's less options, but I think that's better because people, I think, are going to galaxy brain themselves into taking some quarterbacks that they just probably shouldn't be taking at all. And the perfect example is, like, we liked Drake May last year. And once he finally got in, he was fine. Like fine. But how long did it take for him to get in? I feel like that's similar with Jackson Dart. And I think Jackson Dart is actually going to get drafted at too high of a clip in these drafts.
Dude, like, we're not Russ fans here, right? I'm not sitting here telling you Russ can still cook, but he's better than Jacoby Brissett. Like, come on.
Yeah. So I think we can just X Giants quarterbacks out of the player pool. That's just one example. I think there's other teams we can do that with, but I think it's going to be easier to limit what you want to do at that particular position this year than in past years, or maybe it should have been that easy in past years and we sort of put blinders on, and this is sort of the roadmap going forward to saying, yeah, I really only want to draft 15 to 17 quarterbacks or whatever the number ends up being every year. And just sort of, it's the Mark Zuckerberg thing where he wears the same shirt every day, right? Like, because he doesn't want to put that extra brain power into thinking about what shirt to wear.
He has added a sweet chain to the repertoire.
Yes, but it's the same chain every day too. Yeah, exactly. So if that chain is our quarterback 2, the shirt is our quarterback 1. We know exactly who our player pool of quarterbacks are, and we don't have to stray too far. I mean, it's still a big number, but you can limit that quite.
I like this from Southfield. Russ can't cook anymore, but he can make a TV dinner in the microwave. Yes. At least that is definitely true. So we're going to do today, we're going to bounce around to, specific players, specific teams, positions, just try to hit all the major highlights here in about an hour of everything, that we're thinking specifically to pounce on right now. I say that because a little birdie has told me that pretty soon here today, the Drafters Best Ball Championship is launching. So if you don't want to wait for DraftKings, if you don't want to wait for Underdog or whatever, you're going to have options to put these takes to the test today over on Drafters. If you have not signed up for Drafters, use promo code SPIKE. You get 100% deposit bonus, all that good stuff. There's a link to go directly to that in the description. So we'll have our rankings up this afternoon. I do have a 1-year-old birthday party to attend after this, so they may not be up the moment that the drafters tournament launches. We'll also have a rookie rankings updated for post draft this afternoon. But a lot of that's going to be reflected here, right in the show. I actually want to start, Rob, with not necessarily like the first round guys. I think we've all probably had a little bit of time. I mean, T-Mac, on the Panthers, I don't even know that there's that much to discuss other than like how good do you think he is, which is like not really a conversation for today. I don't think. Matthew Golden is somewhat intriguing because it was like probably a slightly unexpected landing spot given we've thought that the Packers wide receiver. I do think, just to quickly touch on Golden, we have this weird thing about the Packers where we're like, all their wide receivers are not good, so they rotate a bunch of them. But then when a wide receiver gets drafted in the first round on the Packers team and has nobody that's that special around him, we're like, oh, that's a bad landing spot. It's like we can't really have both. Like Dontavian Wicks and Romeo Doubs can't be mediocre, but then a guy lands on that team and we're like, we're treating him. It feels a little bit like sometimes we're treating Matthew Golden like Ricky Pearsall of last year, where it's like brother, Romeo Doubs ain't Brandon Ayuk, okay? And like Jaden Reed is baby Debo, he ain't full Debo. Like, I think that the thing for me with Matthew Golden is if he can play, which is my greater concern, quite frankly. If he can play, I'm not worried about him for fantasy. Like he can be good for best ball, especially with the kind of the way that he plays the game, if he's good. Like first round draft capital, they're not going to play Bo Melton 75% of snaps and play Matthew Golden 60% of snaps if Matthew Golden is good. The problem is Wicks and Dobbs and those guys have just not been that dude, right? They're not, they haven't like demanded that they be on the field the whole time by their play. So they see that wide receiver is an issue. They didn't only take Matthew Golden as a wide receiver, by the way. They're realizing that the wide receiver room is an issue. Also, Christian Watson's health. And so I just think ultimately Matthew Golden's like kind of simple for me. I don't love him as a prospect, but if I'm wrong about that and he's a very good player, he's going to be good for fantasy, I think.
Yeah, I think we probably, all of us, the royal we, overvalued every Packers wide receiver and probably bumped them up a letter grade each.
Yep.
Probably made D's, C's, C's, B's, and B's, A's last year from the way the draft was going.
That's a good way to put it.
Is what I would say. So part of that is their rotation. And is it because of what we just said? Or can Golden just go out there and just stay on the field is what we want. So I think it's a possibility for sure. I think that maybe there's reasons Golden doesn't move up enough and he's a guy that you can really hammer. But I have a feeling, knowing our drafters, Golden is going to be put in a spot where you are going to have to make that decision and decide on if it's worth it. It probably is to some degree. I don't know if he's a flag plant guy, but he's definitely a guy you should be drafting, I would say.
Yeah. I'm full disclosure. I'm not sitting here pounding the table for Matthew Golden. He ain't my favorite prospect. So going in the first round, I imagine he's going to be expensive enough to where like it kind of makes those guys easy. Like I see the scenario in which this first round wide receiver that a lot of other people really, really like, that the Packers really, really like is just awesome. And so once I've established that, I'm like, I'm not going to have zero, but then the price adjusts like, okay, is that 3%? Is it 8%? Is it 20%? The price is going to dictate where I land. So he's kind of straightforward. Another guy who's a little bit like that to me, who was very exciting, particularly for the Spike Weekers, is RJ Harvey, one of the running backs, maybe the most surprising, I think, running back, at least to the general kind of public, back that lands with excellent draft capital. RJ Harvey does, maybe greater draft capital than many expected, even some NFL teams, but lands in a great spot. Clean runway. He's first in line to take off from the airport here. RJ Harvey is. There's nothing. If RJ Harvey can play, there is nothing stopping RJ Harvey from being a fantasy smash this year on the Broncos. There's plenty of concerns, right? The same thing. He likes to rotate running backs, and do we trust Sean Payton? How good is RJ Harvey? Like all those same concerns. But again, the Broncos clearly believe. Then they clearly didn't believe that Javonte was the thing anymore, which Jesus, I mean, they watched him even more than we did last year. It was pretty bad. So they believe in this guy. If RJ Harvey can play, he to me is probably tied with another guy we'll talk about in a second as like the biggest winner of the NFL draft. And when these drafts open, like there's a couple guys, star this dude and figure out when to hop in to beat your opponents to him, because obviously his ADP will be 0 or end of the draft fake essentially. And RJ Harvey's one of the reasons to draft right now for me.
Yeah, we should have put the hot dog suits on, because it's going to be we're all wondering who did this situation.
Tomorrow his ADP is going to be.
When we're like, oh, we were supposed to draft early to get this guy in the 7th round, and now he's already a 4th, like a 5th rounder, 6th rounder. And we do this to ourselves because we want to get these values. We want to draft early, but it's all of us doing it. So RJ Harvey's going to be that. And Sean Payton, notorious liar, but if you watch his press conference about RJ Harvey, he had a lot of glowing things to say about RJ Harvey, where he was basically like, we liked Ashton Jeanty, we wanted him. Once we learned that was probably not a realistic scenario, and we started diving in on these other running backs, he's like, I don't remember the exact dates, but I can tell you the day that I watched the 2 hours of RJ Harvey tape, and it sounds like it's going to be a huge net positive for RJ Harvey. Possibly Jeanty, you just set him aside. It's a whole different conversation, but everyone after him, this might have been the best situation we could have asked for any of these guys.
Second year Bo Nix, right? Awesome offensive line. You just really can't get a better situation. Like one could dream, right? Like, okay, he's gonna walk in and play every single snap like Zeke did as a rookie. And it's like, okay, so that's the 1% outcome. We're still in the 90 to 95 percentile outcome in terms of the best thing you could get here, right? It's like, okay, your only concern is that Jaleel McLaughlin's going to play 12 snaps a game. Like that's our concern.
Yeah.
That's a pretty darn good concern. I do really believe in RJ Harvey. I know not everyone does. No prospect is perfect. He is not perfect, but man, kid's got juice. Kid hits home runs. He has a little bit of that Ken Walker to his game, where he likes to hit the home run. But that's fine, right? If we don't get points for success rate in fantasy football, we get points for scoring touchdowns. And in this offense, behind this offensive line, I think RJ Harvey can just be a smash. Again, he has to be able to play, but that's like the prerequisite for anybody, right? You have to have a certain level of talent. If he is that certain level of talent, this is just it's the dream. This is what this is what you play the big board for, right? This is what you play pre-draft contest for, is to get this guy who was going in the 18th, 19th, 20th round. And now, like you said, like, what is he going to be, a 5th round pick? Like that's what you're hoping for. Let's just polish up the Broncos super quickly, because I think they took another guy that people maybe are like, interesting. Didn't love him or don't know that much about him as a prospect. Also got a very glowing review from Sean Payton, and that is Pat Bryant, wide receiver out of Illinois. There is also room for opportunity amongst pass catchers on this Broncos team. They don't necessarily have to play Devon Vele and Lil Jordan Humphrey and these guys, a bunch of snaps anymore. Troy Franklin does not have to be out there if Sean Payton still does not like him. And Pat Bryant got real draft capital, and similar to your points about RJ Harvey in the post-draft presser, he did the greatest clickbait engagement farm of all time, talking about how much Michael Thomas he sees in Pat Bryant. Sean Payton, like you said, noted liar, also noted comper of every running back is Alvin Kamara and every wide receiver is Michael Thomas. Maybe they're Devery Henderson, right? Or Robert Meacham if they're just a downfield guy. He loves to comp to his former studs. But I do think with both of these guys, we shouldn't be as excited about Pat Bryant as we are about RJ Harvey, but the Broncos dictated to us, like, he was a priority, right? Like you said, with Harvey, they were like, all right, we really would love to have that Ginty guy. But once we realized we couldn't get him, we knew we needed this position. Who's our priority? and they said RJ Harvey is the priority, right? There's a number of other backs they could have went with. They could have taken there or waited, and they chose him. They did the same with Pat Bryant, where they said, this guy is the priority. We're going to spend real draft capital on this guy. So he's going to get every opportunity. Like Courtland Sutton is a good football player. Marvin Mims showed down the stretch, but that ain't, that's not Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams. Okay. Like if Pat Bryant can play, he can get on the field. If he can earn targets, he can score fantasy points. Because again, the Broncos situation is really good. It's a really good rookie year. Bo Nix into his second season with an awesome offensive line. I like Pat Bryant. He's another guy. I'm not going to put him on the level of RJ Harvey and those guys, but he is a guy I want to be looking to early and often here because he may be a guy you can wait a little bit longer on. Like you said, we're all playing chicken on RJ Harvey, but you might be able to get still some nice prices on Pat Bryant.
Well, it's sort of the perfect situation for a wide receiver getting drafted in this range, right? Where you're going to a team that you have the quarterback established, the offensive line's pretty good. We've taken care of that running back spot. But even more importantly, on top of all that, we know that Courtland Sutton's the wide receiver one there. He's going to be the wide receiver one there. It gives them time to develop what they want to do with this other rotation of wide receivers. And it puts him sort of to the top of the list. It lets them throw him out there without getting all eyes on him, which is sometimes the problem with some of these first round wide receivers or even second or third rounds that come in expected to be the savior. That's not his job this year. His job
if T-Mac stinks, like it's bad,
you're gonna know
for the Panthers. Yeah.
And you're gonna know by week 2, probably.
Yep, exactly.
Right. Like it's gonna be evident. And it just gives them sort of that time to develop. You even saw it last year, the inverse of that with the Cardinals. Like Marvin Harrison is a first round pick. He felt like he was bad. He had some explosion spots for sure. But if his capital was second or third round rather than where his capital actually was, it wouldn't have been dissected nearly as much as it was. So these are the spots that we like for these receivers, because if he explodes, it's like, oh man, a diamond in the rough almost like that they got here. Someone to build around with Nix in the future. They allowed him to sort of just develop alongside Courtland Sutton, and then they can release Sutton. And if you want the like overly extreme example of that, it's the Rams a few years ago where they had their stud wide receiver, but they drafted Puka Nacua in the 5th. He was able to go out on the field. He was just an absolute stud from the beginning, but he was in a protected spot because he had Cooper Kupp on the other side, right? Like to help release some of that pressure. So I think he's worth taking. He probably won't get steamed up enough. You'll mix Mims in a little, but you probably want a little more of Bryant than Mims for sure. And
at least at cost to start for sure. We'll see where they settle, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think that's sort of the way to play it. And Mims, you can still take even if he loses that quote unquote second wide receiver spot, which he never really had a hold of, I would say by any means, that guy is still a home run hitter where like Vele just goes to 0.
Right. Vele noted like 4'9", 40, 27-year-old or whatever. Those guys. And RIP Troy Franklin. If Pat Bryant can play, it's over for Troy Franklin, which, it is what it is. We did bury the lead, or I certainly buried the lead for myself. My favorite combination of player and landing spot. RJ Harvey is right there too. It's just running backs are a little less exciting, I think, in that regard. And G Temp nails it. I think this is my number one biggest winner of the opening weekend for the NFL draft. A guy who was falling on DraftKings like into the 160s because people were being very negative about him. And he certainly, again, there is no perfect prospect, and he has his own flaws, but the upside, the fit, the draft capital, the quarterback, the coaching, the fact that, as you mentioned, Ladd McConkey is there already. So it's not like if Tre Harris has to be an absolute superstar. Like, I don't know how you just get a better spot. The fit of him, like with Ladd, like what Ladd does well and what Tre Harris does well, what Justin Herbert does well, like all of this stuff is the perfect fit. And we got the second round draft capital for Tre Harris reasonably early in the second round, if I recall. No, I might be wrong about that. The 23rd pick of of the second round. I just don't know how he's not like amongst the rookies, at least like 1A, 1B, whatever, biggest winner of the opening weekend. And the number one guy I will be later today starring and being like, all right, well, you know, when do I take Tre Harris? Because he's a point of emphasis before the ADP gets crazy.
Yeah, it's him and Harvey for that reason. I actually like Tre Harris from a different aspect. Like I like Tre Harris. I'm a little more concerned about him getting too high versus some of the other rookies that are going to shoot up. He is my biggest concern there. But what I love about it is Herbert is probably there's two quarterbacks that I think are severely underpriced this year, and Herbert's one of them. And I don't even know if that will cause Herbert to rise enough. So I think that this obviously helps real life Justin Herbert, clearly helps fantasy Justin Herbert. And I don't think that his price will budge a ton. So I think that's the way I want to play Tre Harris, where even if he gets too expensive for me particularly, I still want to play it through Justin Herbert a little bit.
I think it makes a ton of sense. It's nice to have other attractive options to pair with a quarterback that you really like. It can be uncomfortable to be like, well, I didn't get Ladd in the second round. What am I going to do here to stack up Justin Herbert? Like that's when you can erroneously start talking yourself into QJ again. You can start you can start doing that because you're like, I really want to draft Justin Herbert, but I don't love drafting him, naked or just with a tight end every time or whatever, because Ladd's expensive. We now have this other guy who, again, I'm really excited. I was a huge Tre Harris bull, and I think just the great thing about this landing spot is like his warts, that could come up are like a little bit shielded. You know what I mean? Like having Ladd, having Justin Herbert, he doesn't have to be this perfect all around wide receiver. It reminds me very much of they're not the same type player, but like Xavier Worthy with the Chiefs. Xavier Worthy rocks. No one's arguing that. And I know he was a first round pick and runs a 3.6 40 or whatever, but he is small and like can't do everything as a wide receiver. But when you land on the Chiefs and with Patrick Mahomes and the season goes on and your game grows and your role grows, look what happens. Just nukes the playoffs, is their go-to guy down the stretch. And even though he's flawed, it's masked because you're playing in this amazing situation. When you go play with the Giants, you better be Malik Neighbors. You better be that good. Like, look what Marv didn't have it help other than Trey McBride, and Kyler's good, not amazing. So when Marv wasn't all the way there, he struggled at times. And I think you get shielded with a little bit of that for Tre Harris. And at the price he'll be at, the spike, like he's the king. Like if Gabe Davis was good, like you have Tre Harris, right? And that's like best ball gold. It's worth its weight in gold to just get to never have to worry about when to start him, because he's going to have down games, but he's going to have 6 for 150 and 2 also, because that's what he does. That's what he did his entire college career. Greater than 5 yards per route run last year. It's like a truly absurd number. He was the most efficient wide receiver like we've ever seen, essentially. And so sign me up.
Does it drop Ladd is my question. Like,
I hope so. I'm in. Give me that. I'm all in for it, but it could. It definitely could.
So that would be my preferred outcome, to have Tre Harris maybe get a little too expensive, Justin Herbert stay anchored around where he is, like 6 spot swing maybe would be my dream, and then Ladd dropping a little bit would be amazing.
That would be sweet, because I want all those first and second round wide receivers for the most part. So if you can make it easier on me by dropping their price, like please, thank you. That'd be awesome. Some folks, God love the pre-drafts when you luck into some fun stacks. If you drafted Tre Harris with Justin Herbert, that's sweet. Nice little cherry on top heading into the heart of best ball season, getting some of those. Let's hit some of these guys that folks are talking about. Sauce Tin, I see what you're saying. We are definitely going to hit non-rookies that we're excited about, right? Some guys who are already on teams in the NFL who benefited from this weekend. Just want to hit some of the most notable rookies, as many of them as we can. I have a little less to say about Kyle Williams because I just didn't like him as much as a player as Tre Harris, but third round draft capital for Kyle Williams on the Patriots. We saw last year. I mean, even with Diggs, Diggs is older off of a knee injury. There's lots of opportunity available, and it should be a better offense, right? The coaching is better, some offensive line upgrades. Second year, Drake May. If Kyle Williams is like dollar store Matthew Golden to me. It's like if he can play, he's going to be a very good fantasy asset. I do worry our good friend Pat Carine is going to make Kyle Williams like a 6th round pick or something like that. The legendary upside guys are all going to have 65% Kyle Williams or whatever. But
I'm probably out at that point. Like I just probably won't do it.
but I think he's also just another guy similar, right? This weekend, like nobody expected the great landing spot and necessarily the draft capital, and we got all of it. And so I think he's a good target as well.
Yeah, well, I think if he does get steamed up, I think that we need to remember, and this sort of goes with the Rams situation too at running back, where they took Jarquez
Hunter. Yep.
Jarquez Hunter. And people are like already like falling over themselves to draft Hunter. And some teams, specifically the Rams, but maybe the Patriots will do this too as they work out this new offense in the preseason, will tell you who's going to play. And I think that if you want to take some of the shots right now on the Patriots wide receivers, sure. Specifically the Rams running backs, sure. But after a week, I'm not touching non-Kyren Williams Rams running backs because I know come week 1 and week 2 of the preseason, the Rams will tip their hand. They'll tell me who the number 2 running back is for their team, and then I can hit him. And he's probably not, whoever it is, probably isn't going to move enough to make it matter, right? So I can get all of my exposure to those guys later in the draft cycle. Maybe the Patriots wide receiver core is sort of the same way to play that to a little bit of a lesser extent, but I think that there is going to be an informational edge on some of the skill groups based on the draft as we go forward.
A good point about the Rams running backs. Obviously, they drafted Blake Corum last year, and some interesting quotes out of Rams camp about Hunter and a kind of a RJ Harvey-ish type comments about how much they loved him, which it's definitely possible that the Rams do this, right? The Rams drafts, it can get 2-2 in the second round, and you have Kyren and you spend on Blake Corum, and then you spend on Jarquez Hunter, and previously they'd spent on Cam Akers, right? Like they kind of do some funky things, especially at the running back position. I think I would give, given all the information we have right now, Jarquez Hunter, it's still not even May yet. We can't say who's going to be the backup by the time September gets here. I would say right now, if you put my feet to the fire, Jarquez Hunter gets the first crack at being the backup. I just don't think you prioritize him no matter how much you love him in a draft. If Blake Corum wowed your socks off last year, right? And Blake Corum wasn't even getting in Ronnie Rivers was getting backup snaps, I believe, in the playoff game, if I remember correctly. So I don't think Blake Corum wowed them, but that also doesn't mean Jarquez Hunter is going to win the job. Blake Corum could get better. Blake Corum could come out here and he does knock their socks off this summer. And so that's one of the peak, like you said, informational things. It's, if you want to take, like you said, if you want to take Hunter right now because you're going to try to get some CLV, absolutely, I think you should. But he's not like this. He's not in the camp of all these guys. And I think after maybe you try to soak up some CLV, he's the perfect example of, all right, now let's wait and see, right? Because in the next couple of months, we're going to learn who this backup is, and we can act more. We can pack our bags then, because right, he'll move up, but not like it's not going to be a detrimental rise later in the summer, even if we learn he's the starter or the backup, excuse me.
And let's not make any mistake. People have been trying to dance on the grave of Kyren Williams for the last 3 years. This is unequivocally Kyren Williams' job going forward. He's still going to probably be a 75-80% snap share guy, as much as people don't like to hear that. He's loved by the coaching staff. He's loved by the quarterback. There's a trust factor there. We're just looking for, that situational outcome when we're drafting Rams backup running backs. We're not looking for the Tyler Algier. We're looking for the guy that comes in and takes over if anything catastrophic happens. So how you're drafting the Rams running backs is different than how you're drafting some of the other teams. But people don't believe that. So that's why I think you can wait on it a little bit.
I agree. A couple more running back spots that are going to be both difficult to decipher, but then also probably some informational things that we're going to be tracking throughout the course of the summer. The recent one brought up Bradshaw. What are your thoughts on the Jags running back room? Of course, Travis Etienne still on the roster. Etienne getting traded, maybe, we haven't heard that rumor as of yet, but I don't think it's crazy. I don't think it's crazy. I have no idea is my answer to what about the Jags running back room. Right. I don't know how anyone can have any level of confidence. It's a new regime. That they inherited 2 incumbents and then drafted Bhayshul Tuten with like reasonable draft capital. Does that just mean they love him because it's the new team, the new guys came in and they got their guy? I think that makes sense. Or they just really liked him. This Liam Cohen has used multiple backs like constantly. Do we see 3 guys play? Do we see 2 guys play? Does ETN go away? I just don't have any way to say confidently what it is. If you feel stronger, by all means, go for it. I just don't think, at least yet, this is one of the situations where like I really have to act on, other than come in, star Tuten, and if your room forgets about him, right? If the room you're in, at 2:00 today forgets about Tuten because it is kind of a weird landing spot, by all means, I think that's cool. But it's not. It's a murky one, and I'm going to be waiting it out a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with you on the fact that like no one knows anything. If you're going to take stands, I think the easiest stand to take is that ETN is probably 3 out of 3 here, but I don't think that's
least
a given
excited for Travis Etienne.
Yeah,
sure.
I think that they sort of.
That's a long running thing here.
Right.
If this is your first show, you this is the first time you're hearing this. If this is your 100th show, this is the 100th time you're hearing that we're not big ETN guys.
Yeah, neither of us have been big ETN guys over the course of his career. So the new coaching staff really just leads me to believe that he's going to take a backseat. It's what is that backseat though?
Right.
To your point,
you're still in the car in the back seat.
Yeah, you're still in the car. Sean Tucker had an RB1 week last year.
Right.
Like RB1 of the week. Like he would have won tournaments if anyone considered.
If anybody remembered that he was in the NFL.
Right. And that was a very specific situation too, where that was the game that White was out. And we were like, oh, baby, Bucky is about to just absolutely eat. And Liam Cohen did some shit. And it was the Sean Tucker game. So I think that you can reasonably draft any of these 3 guys and be justified in doing so. If you find a strong lean, Godspeed to you. I mean, I guess maybe I'll be a little overweight Tuten, and I'll probably be a little overweight Bigsby, and I'll probably have 0 ETN. But you can throw those numbers up and down. And I'll just be like, yeah, sure.
100%. Another one that is a little bit tricky. Maybe it's slightly less tricky just because the Browns cases asked which running back on the Browns is the running back to target. I do feel a little stronger in terms of like how I would rank their guys. Quinshon, Judkins. So they drafted Judkins and Dylan Sampson, both with reasonable draft. What a weekend for the Browns fans, brother. Oh my gosh. From both these running backs to Dylan Gabriel and Shador, they got 5 quarterbacks on the
quarterbacks,
ranging from Joe Flacco, Deshaun Watson. I'm forgetting the third other than the 2 rookies that they drafted. Who is the other?
Gabriel, Shador,
Watson, Flacco. And I can't believe I'm forgetting this. Who could ever forget the QB5 on the Cleveland Browns?
Pickett, right? It's Pickett.
Kenny Pickett. Yeah, Kenny. Yeah. Very forgettable. Okay, so forgive me for forgetting Kenny Pickett. But with the running backs, Judkins gets real draft capital, like real draft capital. He was the 4th pick of the 2nd round.
Yeah.
Ahead of teammate Trevion Henderson, which I was a little surprised by, well ahead of Caleb Johnson. Now, That's just the Browns' opinion. That doesn't mean it's everyone else's opinion. The Patriots snap called Trevion Henderson when they were on the clock, despite glaring offensive line needs. So maybe they disagreed. We'll see. But I would definitely put Judkins at the top of this. I would put Sampson ahead of Jerome Ford, honestly, at this point, from a best ball perspective. I think it's very, very possible Jerome Ford is the RB2 by the time the season comes. But if I'm drafting right now, they just showed their hand, man. Like the Jerome Ford ain't their future. And he may be the passing down back or something like that, right? He could be the Samaje Perine or Dare Ogunbowale. But the days of, Jerome Ford's really undervalued because we know he's going to have a role. Like we probably said that a week ago. I said that a week ago. Like Jerome Ford, we know he's going to have a role and he could even be the starter. It's like, nope. See ya. Yeah. They just took two guys fairly high in the draft. And so Judkins 1, Sampson 2, and Ford 3 for me.
Yeah, Judkins 1, but also is Judkins the only Brown that you kind of want to draft now after what's going on in Cleveland this year? I know people can make cases for some of, Njoku's always a beast, but they've given him some competition this year as well. We don't love Jerry Jeudy as a number 1 overall wide receiver on a team. I don't know, dude. Like everything is leaning towards Cleveland doesn't know what they're doing again. Yeah. And I mean, we would want that to lead to some shootouts, but do they have they have 5 quarterbacks. Do any of those names lead you to shootout candidates that guys could just go out there? Flacco's your best shootout quarterback of all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And he's my age.
Literally.
Yeah, literally older than me, which is weird to say at this point with NFL players. So I don't know, dude. It just feels not great.
The old 0 QB strategy in real life football. Let's see how it works out. I mean, to be frank, the Browns are very familiar with this strategy. They've been doing it for a long, long, long time. Old 0 QB in Cleveland. While we're on the Browns, I have to at least shout out my boy, tight end Harold Fannin goes day 2 as well to the Browns. Another one, look, I really like Harold Fannin. You know that. Everybody knows that. But it's a peculiar pick. I will say, we talked about this on the show on Friday night live while it was happening. Look, it's really easy to do the thing. We've done this with Dalton Kincaid. We've done this with, many tight ends before. Kyle Pitts, the vaunted 12 personnel conversation, right? And it's easy to say, well, they'll just play 2 tight ends. And it's like the Raiders led the NFL in 12% 2 tight end utilization at 35.5% last year. So we're talking about 2 tight ends on the field for 35% of the Cleveland Browns offensive snaps. It's not that valuable. But what I will say is Harold Fannin is not a typical tight end. He's not this total normal inline guy. I could see a path in which his role is greater. It may not be this 12 personnel stuff, but we talked about the Browns wide receiver room is not good. Like Jerry Jeudy, Cedric Tillman, after those guys, we did the can you name another Browns wide receiver experiment on Friday. And I don't think most people can. Unless you're a big Jamari Thrash fan, I don't think most people can name another Browns wide receiver. So there is a path for Harold Fannin. It's just you also see the path to a total stone cold 0.
Yeah, it's just it's going to work itself out a little bit. We know that Deshaun Watson's going to be on whatever medical IR situation.
Right.
We know that they're going to cut this down. Pickett or Flacco has to go at this point with them bringing in 2 rookie quarterbacks.
Right.
But it's still it's a hoarder's house. The Browns are a hoarder's house where, great, you cleaned for 3 hours in one corner of the room, but the rest of the house is still a mess. And the Cleveland Browns are always just going to be a mess until they do something different. I don't know. It's not a team I want to be drafting. Maybe I'll draft Judkins, but I just stay away from me, Cleveland.
Yeah, they'll be fun to track. Maybe not in a fun way like the Chiefs are fun, but a fun way like if you like watching car wrecks, I think. Yeah, shout out to the Browns fans in the chat.
Car wrecks, they can't even get on the road is the problem.
That's true.
They're broke down in the driveway, man.
Right, right. They're leaking oil. The driveway's got all the oil stains on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You've seen that. Yeah, everybody gets pissed off, like ruined my driveway. That's Dylan Gabriel. Dylan Gabriel started leaking oil before the car even got out on the road. Some other rookies I just wanted to mention. I mentioned the Chiefs. I know that this is maybe not a guy that most people are thinking about, but draft Jalen Royals. What a draft for the Chiefs, man. It's funny how good teams stay good and you watch them draft well and you're like, we just did the Browns thing where they drafted 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs, and like a bunch of slappies. And the Chiefs are just like, we're going to take a falling like upside swing value. They took a 6th round or 7th round Brashard Smith running back out of SMU, and they took 4th round Jalen Royals, who I think is a really exciting prospect. He only played 5 games this year, but was one of the best wide receivers in the country in those 5 games, just completely dominant. He was very good the year before, not quite as elite, but very good in his second to last college season, though he does come from Utah State, so a smaller program, and then we have this limited sample, right? But I'm not trying to make this comp, but this will come up over the course of the summer. Someone else will say this. It's kind of Puka Nacua-y in that regard, where Puka came from BYU, not a major program. When he was on the field, he was very productive. He missed a lot of games, right? Puka did a ton of games. Jalen Royals kind of had that. We just don't have a lot of games, and he comes from a small school. You're like, what do we do with this? I think that he could be nothing, right? This could be Sky Moore all over again, for sure. But it also could be, another Rashee Rice situation, and they got this screaming value on a really talented player because of the concerns, and they took the swing. I think it was great. And I think maybe more so dynasty or, just like late round darts in best ball, but he's on my board for sure as a cheaper wide receiver. He's just attached to Patrick Mahomes, and same thing. If he can play, there's no Justin Watson. There's no DeAndre Hopkins. Like if he can play, he's going to get on the field in 3 wide receiver sets. This is like what people were hoping Justin Ross would be and stuff. So I'm actually pretty excited for Jalen Royals to see what he can do.
Yeah, the Chiefs finally get under the age of 35 as a collective at the wide receiver position. Yeah, I mean, he's fine. Like you take him as a dart. They're finally putting together a half decent wide receiver room, even though I think they still have Juju on the roster at this point.
Yes, they do.
Who's essentially a tight end as of now.
Yeah.
But Royals can come in there, and it's going to be tough. To your point, it's going to be tough for him to get on the field this year in a significant manner.
Without an injury.
Right, because Rice, Worthy, Juju is trusted within that organization as much as we want to make fun of it. And they still have Hollywood as well that they did invest some capital in. He does feel like sort of a project player where, like you said, Dynasty might be the right spot for him.
Fun spot for Dynasty.
Yeah. So maybe you grab some late of him, and if he ends up going undrafted, 2% Royals actually becomes like 16% Royals versus the field because no one else is touching him. So maybe something like that, but I wouldn't be going out of my way to get a significant exposure.
Agreed. We're not going to be, so there's a million guys we could talk about. We'll be back on this channel all week, all summer, I promise, diving into all of these. We can't hit them all today. I'm cool with the Trevion Henderson, certainly Price. I'm cool with Trevion Henderson on the Patriots. Somebody mentioned, we amongst the tight ends, in terms of landing spot, I'm pretty intrigued by Terrence Ferguson. We talked about the Rams. I should have hit Terrence Ferguson earlier. 2nd round pick, 14th overall in the 2nd round was kind of shocking for Terrence Ferguson, but they've been on the hunt since 5 years ago, Tyler Higbee, for a tight end who can do it all, right? They kind of find guys, Parkinson can block, but he can't do anything else, right? Higbee's old. They've tried this thing. And again, if Ferguson can play, dude, just a tight end on the Rams is super valuable. So I'm into him. Just quickly scrolling some of the earlier round guys. We talked about Fannin. We talked to Isaac Tesla. I don't really care to talk about him today, but he did go in the third round to the Detroit Lions. Should be at least notable. The Texans guys, Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel. Jaden Higgins at the top of the second is another guy I think I'm definitely going to be drafting to start here. Can play on the outside opposite Nico Collins with Christian Kirk in the slots. And then Kaleb Johnson on the Steelers. I know maybe third round pick was not what we were hoping for, maybe early to mid second, but it's the Steelers, baby. I can't, other than the fact that I don't know who's going to hand him the ball. The situation is great. They've spoken very highly of Kaleb Johnson also as like just a beast of a runner. And Mike Tomlin was talking about how he didn't have any like fake yards, like Saturday yards, I think is what he calls them, where it's like, you had big plays, but you were untouched. Your offensive line just dominated someone. And he was like, Kaleb Johnson played against 8-man boxes every play because he's going to be very familiar with having a quarterback who can't complete a forward pass, because that's what he did at Iowa, played against stacked boxes. So it's a pretty good fit for Kaleb Johnson. I also just really like him as a player. Jalen Warren, is still has value in fantasy, but this is their new and probably better runner, at least, Najee Harris. So pretty excited for Kaleb Johnson.
But Jalen Warren's going to be what we've always thought Jalen Warren was going to be. And anyone
he's
that
a role
had
player, really good role. He's a really good role player, but he's a role player.
Yeah, anyone that had the grandiose idea that he was going to be anything different this year. And I think that the draft capital on Kaleb Johnson in this particular manner doesn't matter because of the landing spot, because of what we know this team is. We know what the Rams are going to do in preseason with their running backs. We know what the Steelers are going to do in the full season with their running backs. Like, they are one of the more predictable teams in the NFL in this respect. And the super mega powers came together with the Steelers and Arthur Smith and what they want to do with backfield. So we know like that it's just an absolute smash spot. You want to be taking as much of him as you can at reasonable ADP. And even when he rises up, I think he's going to be a fine pick no matter where he ends up on the board, because he's going to get fudded enough that he's not going to move up to where he's tough to click, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're having a tough click on him at that point in time, maybe reevaluate your process drafting running backs is my read on the situation. I could be wrong on that.
Yeah, I am. I'm excited for Kaleb Johnson. Let's see. Just go. I'm hoping, Rodney. I'm hoping the Blues will pull it off today. I'm not getting out over my skis, but we're hoping. I just wanted to note a couple of. It's always fun to talk about the total flyers, the extreme dart throws. Several of these guys are probably not going to make the team. Okay, but everybody's always looking for the absolute last round picks, right? Maybe or in dynasty or somebody to go trade for, whatever. Your last round picks. I think it's more so at the running back position this year generally is, because it's such an opportunity and situation based spot. I think it'd be remiss if we didn't shout out Taj Brooks. Texas Tech running back goes in the 6th round to the Cincinnati Bengals. This is ultimately means nothing, but I think it's just at least interesting. Like, Chase Brown was a 5th round pick, and like Chase Brown's a fine football player. Chase Brown this is not Saquon Barkley. Like, he inherited the big role. And they brought in Samaje Perine as the only, so we know what Perine is, right? Third down back type guy. Taj Brooks was a do-it-all guy who I really liked and was much more athletic than I thought the concern was going to be like, oh God, this dude's going to run 4.8 or something in the 40. His RAS was totally fine. Like I said, did everything: pass catcher, pass blocker, goal line runner, just a total workhorse for multiple seasons at Texas Tech, which is kind of the Chase Brown thing. That's kind of how Chase Brown became a thing. Right? Not perfect, but just carried the load, right? And carried a college offense on his back. Taj Brooks is my favorite guy. If you're taking like a mega flyer, I mean, it's also the Bengals, right? Like, geez, if something happens and Taj Brooks gets on the field, like he's in the best situation to be good for fantasy, as we saw with Chase Brown. Now, Zach Moss is still hanging around and P-Rise on the team. Will he make the team? I don't know, but he's interesting. The other one, we kept hoping all weekend, when are the Bears going to draft a running back? When are the Bears going to draft a running back? Well, they did, but not till the 7th round with Kyle Monangai out of Rutgers. This is full bias, but I actually really liked him as a football player. Not like a big time pass catcher, but like I can just see this scenario of if it works with Monangai, Swift plays that pass game role where he's best. Ben Johnson knows that. That's how Ben Johnson used DeAndre Swift as the pass game guy, right? Use Jamal Williams as the hammer and use DeAndre Swift as the pass catcher. Kyle Monangai is that between the tackles, beast of a runner, powerful, strong, all that kind of stuff. So, 7th rounder, unlikely to make the team usually as a 7th round running back. But if he does, I think in that spot on the Bears offense that we're so excited about with Swift and Roschon, like he's there's a path. There's a real path for Kyle Monangai. So I just wanted to shout him out too.
Yeah, until Breece Hall gets traded to the Bears.
Yeah, exactly.
Next few days.
Get ready to learn the Breece Hall, Jamal Williams backfield in Chicago this year. Jamal Williams is a free agent, and it's like, oh God, here we go. We're gonna run back Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift, or trade for Breece Hall, or trade for Travis Etienne or something. The running back musical chairs is not over, so that's why I'm being very cautious on DeAndre. Like it's easy to say, oh my God, DeAndre Swift and Roschon, like this is amazing. They got the perfect run out. That's possible. It's possible they just run this running back room. It's also very possible that neither of those two guys are relevant in fantasy this year because, like you said, Breece, they signed Jamal, they signed Dobbins, they signed Gus Edwards and trade for Travis Etienne. Like there's still dominoes to fall, and the Bears are one of those where there's a lot of potential smoke on them still adding to the running back room. So I'm not saying don't draft DeAndre Swift. I'm just saying if you look back in June and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I wasted these teams with DeAndre Swift, don't be surprised.
Yeah, and this actually leads me to another 7th round running back because I think there could be it's not forest fire smoke. It's, you just sort of lit a bunch of wet firewood and there's a little bit of smoke coming out. But the Seahawks drafted Martinez in the 7th round, who was a guy that people thought was going to go much higher than the 7th round. They have Charbonnet. They have Ken Walker as well. And if they like Martinez enough, again, 7th rounder could just get cut, no, obviously. But if they end up liking Martinez enough and they think they got an absolute steal, there was already rumblings of one of those other two backs getting moved. I think it would be Walker before Charbonnet, personally. Just, reading the tea leaves. Maybe Martinez is a guy to take a couple dart throws on late in drafts. And you could even pair him up with one of the other Seahawks backs because whatever, like if they're on the same team, sure. And if one of them gets traded, then, you just hit an absolute home run by doing something like that. So just wanted to point that one out.
I like it. Also, if one of those backs gets out of there, like you said, pairing them together, any late round running back like a Martinez getting on the field at all is a win. But I think we talked a lot about the Seahawks as the house of cards offense of if Ken Walker can get away from the Sam Darnold house of cards Seattle offense, it could be like a real double whammy where you get two big wins. Let's quickly do some non-rookies, some veterans. As I mentioned, if you want to drop a comment, if you want to hop in the Discord, which of course there's a link to, where there's been like 5,000 messages sent in just the rookie channel this morning already. Everybody's fired up. If you want to ask me, we'll be back all week talking about all these different rookies. We'll try to hit them, over the course of the week. But I did want to hit on some of the veterans too, because there's situations to pounce on amongst veterans, right, where the rookies get all the buzz. But just a couple that I do want to note that I'm more either still excited for or more excited for than I thought I might be as we sit here today. If you ask me on Wednesday, these guys I'm a little bit more excited for. Will Shipley is the number one for me, which is kind of funny, but you guys know I'm like a zero running back bro. I mean, Saquon is arguably the 101 in fantasy drafts. He's in the top few picks. And we now have his backup, who was a 3rd-round pick last year, kind of showed a little bit that he can play too. By the way, if you remember the conference championship game, he's ripping off 70-yard runs or whatever. And Kenny Gainwell is gone. And now they did not, certainly did not replace Will Shipley. I think he needs to be like 8 rounds higher than he was going in the big board. Like he's like the best handcuff in all of fantasy. Saquon hasn't exactly been a picture of health over the course of his entire season. He also has a chance to just like the Eagles are up by 21 in the 4th quarter and Will Shipley gets 12 carries, he just stands out as a smash to me. A couple running backs, and we could do some other positions. Trey Benson.
He wasn't even on the field. Like he wasn't on the field to the respect that people thought he was last year either.
Right.
I don't remember the exact count off the top of my head.
Most of the times in the 60s or 70% range.
Yeah. So
Gainwell played.
Gainwell played more than people thought he played last year. So just in that respect, where to your point, if he rips off a 70-yarder here and there, you're getting this dude so late with the contingent upside and actually getting on the field at least 25 to 30% of snaps on average. Sign me up.
Yeah, he's probably my favorite pick on the board right now. Also because like everybody's going to be chasing Tre Harris, right, and RJ Harvey, and I think Will Shipley will too. I know the people listening to this and the people in the Spec Week Discord are going to be on Will Shipley, but the overall market is just going to be slower to react to a guy like him. A couple other running backs, Trey Benson. So 2nd-year player who didn't quite get there like we thought he might last year, but James Conner another year older. Trey Benson did start to play better and more down the stretch of last season, and they brought no competition in for him as the 1B or whatever, right, to James Conner. Tyler Algier, also Bijan Robinson, same thing. Tyler Algier did not, they're running it back. They're running the whole offense, but they didn't draft an offensive player, the Falcons. So you add Mooney to this list, add London, right? Add whoever to this list, Voldemort, aka Kyle Pitts, if you like him, and then Javonte Williams on the Cowboys. Javonte is probably cooked. I think we all saw how bad it was last year, but 2 years ago, 2 and 3 years ago. He was good, really good NFL football player, had a really, really bad knee injury. I'm not predicting that he returns to form, but I don't know, man. If you get like 85% of peak Javonte Williams with no competition on the Cowboys, I think that's a good pick in fantasy. And there's going to be enough, like same thing, like you said, enough FUD where people are just like, it's Javonte Williams, man. He stinks. And like, I don't know. We did this with Rico Dowdle last year, and he was pretty valuable to have in fantasy drafts. So just another running back there.
Yeah, so 2 things on some of the stuff you just hit on. We'll start where you ended with the Cowboys. Sure, but also Cowboys fans, get ready to learn Nick Chubb, because that feels like the absolute Nick Chubb landing spot this year is going to be the Dallas Cowboys. And Trey Benson was my favorite running back to draft in the pre-draft stuff. So I feel justified on that. And I wouldn't be shocked if Trey Benson is my most owned running back going into week 1 of the NFL season, because I just think he's in an absolute smash spot in a good offense where everything looks like it could run out his way. And I don't think it's just going to be contingent value this year. I think it's going to be, I think it's going to be a more Algier than it was last year. So I'm excited. I'm really excited for Trey Benson, and I don't think his ADP is going to shift enough to get off of him at this point.
I think they showed us when they drafted him that they didn't want James Conner to do this again, right? And then guess what? And Trey Benson got hurt, and other guys got hurt. Michael Carter got hurt, and you're like, God damn it! It's week 15 again, and James Conner's playing 99% of the snaps. It's like deja vu every year. But I think it's going to be more like 60-40, 50-50 to start the year with Trey Benson, because they just don't want to run James Conner into the ground. Doesn't mean James Conner is a bad pick. I'm just saying I think it makes Trey Benson a really, really, really good pick. Dorito resident James Conner truther in the chat. Not very excited about that. Couple we'll do quarterbacks. Just a couple of quarterbacks that I think the clear and obvious winner is Kaleb Williams from this. Just the whole offseason, right? That's nothing profound. 3 new starting offensive linemen to shore up the offensive line, gets Ben Johnson as his coach instead of the circus that he was playing in last year. And then they draft both Colston Loveland and Luther Burden. So I don't love it for either of those guys from a fantasy perspective, but from Kaleb Williams having Rome, DJ Moore, Luther Burden, Colston Loveland, and Cole Kmet, good offensive line and a great play caller, seems like a pretty big slam dunk. And then just shout out Geno Smith. Raiders 9-8 ass Raiders, I think is going to be good for Geno.
Yeah, Geno's situation definitely improves there. And Trevor Lawrence, they are to a lesser degree than the Bears, but this really does feel like they are trying to set up the prove it year for Trevor Lawrence, where we got you everything, man. You got one of the best wide receivers. You got what could be one of the next best wide receivers in Travis Hunter if we decide to go that route with him. We are trying to set you up to win now. We're done with the bullshit. We're done with the Doug Petersons. There's no more visors on the sideline. Go out there, show us what you can do, and prove that you deserve to be here long term. So I think that we want to draft some Jags, and you might get that discount on BTJ now, which, God, please give me the BTJ discount.
Genty's going to pass some of these wide receivers in ADP, and I'm not even saying it's wrong again, but it's so funny how did you not think Genty was going to land it? Like, we knew he was going to be in a smash spot. No one drafts a top 10 running back and doesn't use him. Right. So the Raiders was one of the 3 or 4 outcomes we knew was coming for Genty. And then it's people it's as soon as we know it for sure, like guys move up. So we might you might be able to get your neighbors BTJ teams more easily now. And I think that makes any sense to me, but who am I? What do I know? Speaking of,
we were going to those back end of the draft spots all year.
So 111, 112 is historically not been the most fun to draft from, but this feels so much like CD Amon-Ra, the CD Amon-Ra season, where it was I don't know, man, I can get 2 superstars on 2 of the best offenses in the league. That sounds pretty goddamn good at the 1-2 turn. Couple veteran wide receivers just to note on. I kind of mentioned these guys already, but through someone else. I'll toss a tight end or 2 in as well. I mean, Darnell Mooney, we just it's okay. I didn't love him last year. Eat that L for sure. He was a good player, had a good season last year, and literally nothing has changed except the quarterback play might be better. He might actually have Michael Penix, so draftable for sure. To me, Darnell Mooney is a winner. And then the other most boring ass chaperone you've ever seen in your entire life, Josh Palmer. Keon, you could just toss the Bills wide receivers into this, right? If you like Khalil Shakir, if you like Keon Coleman, if you like Josh Palmer, they didn't draft anybody. So they're just running it back with the same Bills thing. And as much as, we hated it last year, guys pop up for good, right? Amari popped up for good games. Mac Hollins popped up for good games. Khalil Shakir, right? Guys still score fantasy points. Their defense also, as we talked about on Friday, looks to have taken, unless their rookies really hit on defense, their defense is going to be worse. So we might get some more of that passing volume. And Josh Palmer's boring. He's not going to be a fantasy smash, but he can put up big weeks. He had some big weeks with Justin Herbert. So I think he's another clear winner. And then we did the Cowboys thing, but I just wanted to toss Jake Ferguson out there as well, because the Cowboys they literally did not add a pass catcher. So I think we were reaching a little too high for Jake Ferguson last year, but I think we've course corrected too far the other way now. And he's probably a pretty good value where he's going.
I think CD's probably a little, I know where CD's going and dressed, but he still might be undervalued.
We can make the 101 case. The 101 case.
You could. And the other one I'll hit on, we hit on this team so much, the Broncos. Courtland Sutton is the Kyron Williams of wide receivers, where people are looking for reasons not to draft him for whatever reason. So there were reasons given to move his ADP down. And I don't think anything has changed for Courtland Sutton this particular year from a best ball perspective. I think you're going to start to see the slip on him. And I want access to the Broncos offense in general. And you're going to give me the 101 wide receiver on their team like at a discounted value now, so I'll just probably be taking that as well.
I am with you. Omega King says might even move CD up to 101 in one of the cheap tourneys. I think, yeah. I mean, he was arguably the 101, has arguably been the 101 before. And how is this worse? This is the same situation that we had him valued there. We got to get out of here. I did want to note, if you just joined us and missed the beginning, if you're itching, right, which you probably are if you're listening to best ball content at 9 a.m. Central Time on a Sunday morning, a Drafters Fantasy is launching their main tournament today, so you can draft best ball teams today. Soon, actually, a little birdie told me. So if you haven't played on Drafters, it is cumulative scoring, it is full PPR, it is 20 rounds, and you can get 100% deposit bonus up to $100. You get a free hundy to go draft a few of these RJ Harvey, Tre Harris teams today over on Drafters. Just use promo code SPIKE or the link in the description. Hop in the Discord, hit like, hit subscribe. We'll be back all week talking about all these guys. If we missed your favorite player, I promise you, we're thinking about them. We got you covered. Come back later this week and we'll talk about all of that. But for Rob and for myself, we will see you guys maybe tomorrow, maybe Tuesday, but definitely a whole bunch the rest of this summer. Peace.
Woo! Those were some spicy takes. Want to stay up to date with all of the other spicy takes we're going to have over here at Spike Week? Why don't you press that subscribe button below? You turn notifications on, we draft a team, boom, you know about it. We have another spicy take, boom, you know about it. You can be there, you can draft with us. You want to stay up to date? That's how you do it. All right, we'll catch you later next time here at Spike Week.